Well, it's time to belly up to the bar. That's something you don't usually hear at church. So back in our old days, if we're bellying up to the bar, it usually meant there was a good story that was getting ready to be told, probably a lie. But a good story is getting ready to get told. Yes. We're not your typical church. We like to have fun here. But whenever it gets to this time, it's now that we're going to actually get serious. And tonight's about coming down from the mountaintop. I'm going to tell you a story, and Ray knows it because he was part of it with me. How do you even know which story it is?
Oh. Yeah.
It was Labor Day weekend, 1980. We had gone up to the mountains, and we were riding up the parkway. I was 16. It was Ray, my cousin David, and we had two kids that played on their Little League baseball team. A boy by the name of Bo Getros and Doug South. They were both probably about 11, 12 years old at the time. And we stopped at this really neat place called Linville Falls. Linville Falls is beautiful. You talk about a mountaintop experience. This was it. If you go out to the end, there is a overlook where you can look back at the falls. And there's this humongous boulder in the middle of the top of the falls. And it stands over the top of the falls probably 20, 30 feet. And if you go up to the top of the falls, there was a place where they had made a stone wall. And at the stone, just past the stone wall, that was saying, people have fallen to their death trying to cross up here. Do not go beyond this point. And I read it as I was going beyond that point.
Yep.
And we're jumping from rock to rock, got to the other side, because that's where you could go and climb on top of the rock. There was two ways to get there. So I climbed on top of the rock, and I was just laying there. And I heard one of the kids, Mike, you ain't going to believe this. This guy just broke his ankle. There was two football players with Appalachian State that were there with their girlfriends, and they were hiking. And the other way you could get to the boulder that I was on was a little jump. It was about 5 foot across and about 5 foot down. Not too bad. One slip and you had a 600-foot fall. When he landed, his ankle snapped. And one of the, I think it was Bo, reached out, grabbed his belt and held him and pulled him back. If that. And when I got down there, his foot, like it was being was held on by spaghetti. Well, back across the river we went, and we're about a mile from the entrance where the ranger station is, and it's all trails, and we hoofed it. And we ran all the way back out to the gate. We told the rangers, and then we ran back. We were probably gone maybe 15 minutes. And when we got back there, we're bringing the guy across the river. And when they got him across the river, he had his arm around his friend, and he had his hand on my shoulder and was using me kind of like a crutch. And we were trying to get up a path that two people could not get up side by side. And as we were going, there was two women coming down. And one of them, she was husky, and she had two Dobermans on leashes. And she stopped. She gave the leashes to her friend, and she cradle carried this guy up the path to the access road. Well, and at the time was a whole lot bigger than me. Well, when we got there, I taking my jacket and put it under his foot, so we had to wait for the paramedics to get there. And when they got there, they put his foot on air splint, and I was able to get my jacket. And we left. And about the time we're getting in the van to leave, the ambulance is coming out, and it stops at the back of the van. And the back doors come open. The paramedic gets out, and he comes over, and he says, he wants to see you. So the group of us go back to the back of the ambulance, and the gentleman thanks us. Well, what made that the mountaintop experience for me was I was on the top, and I was surrounded by God's glory. Now, a lot of times when we go on the mountaintop, we kind of focus on God. We enjoy the moment that we are spending on the mountaintop. Everything that's going on around us and down in the valley is far away. We like that spiritual high. And a lot of people live from spiritual high to spiritual high. They go to church on Sunday, they'll throw their arms up, they'll praise God, and they have all the wonderful feelings. And that's what they are, they're feelings. But Monday comes. And Monday they go back to work. And then all of a sudden you find out that the spiritual high is no longer carrying them through the week because reality's hit. And what you saw on Sunday is not what you're going to see on Monday. But that's the way a lot of us treat our faith. We're looking for the high. But that wasn't the way Paul saw it. It's not the way that Paul lived it either. In 2 Corinthians, Paul's writing to the church of Corinth. He says, let's see. He says, I more so in far more labors and in far more imprisonments, beaten 3 times without number, often in danger of death. 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes. 3 times was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I spent in the deep. I have been on infrequent journeys, in danger from rivers, endangered from robbers, endangered from my countrymen, endangered from Gentiles, endangered in cities, endangered in wilderness, endangered on sea, endangered among false brethren. I have been in labor and hardship, through many sleepless nights, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposed. Apart from such external things, there is daily pressure on me of concern for all the churches. Paul was beaten. Paul was always in danger of death. And here he is. The whole time that he is going through hardship, his concern is for the church. His concern is not being on that mountaintop, waiting that next spiritual moment. His concern is for the church. His concern is for the people and the body of Christ. See, when I was up on top of that rock, on top of that waterfall, I could have ignored that call. Other people did. Three kids didn't have to run for a ranger station, but there wasn't cell phones back then. We weren't special by any stretch of the imagination. We were just kids. We weren't heroes. We weren't something to look up to. We were just there. But the call came out. come down from the mountain. There's a need. Didn't matter what the need was. The need was that important. The church in America, the Western church, the modern church, has never been through true persecution like Paul has went through. They spend each week going for their next high. Hope that the music's good, that the pastor's entertaining, that he makes me feel good, so whenever I go home and take off my Sunday best, I can go back to being what I am the rest of the week. Folks, that is not what we're called to do. I hear people say all the time, I know that God has got a purpose for me. I just don't know what it is. Let me tell you something. Do you have passions? Do you have things that spark your interest, that you enjoy talking about? You want to find what true passion is? Wait till September and after a football game on a Saturday. You will find out what passion is. Passion is for 22 between 18 and 23-year-old kids. And you will see old pot-belly guys like me sit there and hoop and holler at a TV or at a stadium because of what they're doing with a ball covered in pigskin. Spend mega bucks to have the right parking space, the right gear. And we'll talk all week long about the game that just passed or the game that's coming. You'll find out what passion is. But will you hear on Monday morning someone talk about their true passion in Christ, for Christ? Will they live what they claimed just 24 hours before? I work with two guys that are Christians. Claim they are. One of them, I am absolutely certain he is. Because he leads our man time here on Saturday mornings. And I've known him for a long time. And I know by his actions, not only here, but at work, that he's a Christian. Is he a perfect man? By no means. Neither am I. Does he have frustrating moments during the day? Yes, he does. Do I? Yes, I do. But I have another one that I work with claims to be a Christian. But I tell you what, the things that come out of his mouth, they make me go, and you were where yesterday? Is it my place to call him out? No. Jesus said you will know a tree by its fruit. He is an example for me, just as Joe is an example for me. And I weigh the difference. And I see, is one real? Is one false? And I think about this. You know, there's different grades of steel. Okay? If you do any type of mechanic work, you know the difference between a grade 5 bolt and a grade 8 bolt. A grade 5 bolt is steel. It's not the hardest steel. It will bend. Grade 8 is a cased hardened steel bolt, and it will not bend the way that grade 5 will. But the way that you get your different grades of steel is steel has to be forged. You start with iron. Iron is heavy. Iron is, it feels like it would be strong, but iron, because of its high carbon content, is very brittle. But you can take iron and put it in the heat of a forge, and then you can pound it. And as you pound it, you see sparks fly. As those sparks are flying, what that is, that's carbon being pounded out. And as it's pounded out, you take it, you put it back into the furnace, and you roll it, and you pound it some more. Each time you do that, the metal's changing. It's being tempered. It becomes malleable. You can actually bend it. You can take it and start to form it. And you can also take and cool it in oil, which tempers the steel and makes it stronger. And each time you go through this process, your steel becomes stronger. You have gone from what was once iron, which looked like it would be strong, felt like it would be strong, but was actually brittle, to case-hardened steel, which is strong. That's how it is with Christians. You've got some that go into the forge and they start the process. And some of the impurities are taken out. But as they go through, they see the mountaintops and they spend their times on the mountaintops. And they just try and go from one mountaintop to the next. They come out of the forge too quick. They can't handle the heat. They can't handle the stress that's being put on them to make them something stronger. But if you look, and you look at someone who is truly following the path of Christ, watch what they're going through. They're going through struggles. In fact, the name Israel means struggles with God. Let me tell you something. Being a Christian is not an easy walk. Look at what Paul went through. What would the church in America do if that type of persecution came upon it today? I don't think we're that far from it. What it would do is it would weed out not the ones that are going through the forge, but the ones that are fakes. The ones that are forgeries. Does that mean that a true Christian is going to be somebody that's up on a pedestal? No. Not hardly. You see, the higher you get on a pedestal, is the farther you have to fall when you fall, and you will fall. No, a true Christian is going to be humble. Instead of lifting themselves up, they're going to lift others up. They're going to encourage others. See, when you're on the mountaintop, to be on the top, that meant you had to spend some time down in the valley. Well, guess what's down in the valley? That's where the work's at. That's where the people are. Not too many people that are in the valley are ever going to make it to the mountaintop. They will spend all their time in the valley. Labor Day weekend, 1980, 3 little boys were on a mountaintop and looked back in the valley. And because they just didn't know any better, they did something that was extraordinary. Was it extraordinary to them at the time? Nope. They didn't realize what they were doing. But many a time the story's been told as they've grown older. The story's remembered. That's who's told the story most of the time. But that's what the mountaintop experience is supposed to be about. It is supposed to prepare you to meet the need of those that are in the valley. If the church in America was ever to figure that out, we would make such a change in people's lives. You want to see somebody's life change? Live your faith. Live it when times are hard. Live it whenever the struggles are hitting you. Live it whenever you're being ripped apart by the wilds of life. Whenever everything is falling down around you, live it. You may not think that it means anything, but you can guarantee the people that are around you that are watching it, they're noticing it. And it is impacting them in ways that you will never understand or imagine. You see, we are a biker church. Not everybody here is a biker. Biker Church USA is a church run by bikers to reach the whole world. It is one thing to put this leather on and go out there and ride the rides. I've done it. I've been a biker for all my adult life. But whenever you go into the same world that you walk in on a daily basis, it's not a big deal. But whenever you go outside of the world that you walk in on a daily basis and you go into the rest of society and you put this leather on, and people look and they see that there's something different there. You know what this vest is? It is no different than a priest who wears a collar. No different. Because when you see a priest with a collar, the first thing that comes to your mind is a priest. And you know what a priest is about. Well, whenever I put this leather on, these patches on it, they scream. What am I about? But guess what else they do? On this back, that flag that I wear, that right there, it's a target. And rightfully so, as well it should be. Because there are people that are looking at and they're saying, Christian, huh? Let's see. They'll never say it to your face, but they will watch you. And you never know when they're watching. You can be standing in the line at a Dollar General and talking to the lady at the checkout and have the lady behind you watching your every move. You can be at a restaurant talking with the waitress and have people at other tables watching, listening to what you say and what you do. You can be riding your bike. You can walk into a 1% club wearing your colors. And guess what? They're white. And right. Being a Christian for Paul was about being persecuted, but stay in the path. Knowing that his mountaintops were when he was being persecuted. Being Christian for us should be looking for the things that are going to humble us. And going through them and knowing that the things that knock us to our knees is the things that other people are going to notice the most. It's not about a feel-good experience. If it was about a feel-good experience, well, it wouldn't be so hard to get people to come to church. But it is about the salvation of your soul. It is about understanding that there is a Creator who created in you in His image and His likeness, and because of that, He places value on you. So much value that His Son said, Daddy, I'll die for him. And did so willingly. So you can be redeemed back. It's not about the slips. It's not about the falls. They're going to happen. about what you do whenever you come back from them. We're going to open up the altar in just a few minutes. But folks, there's one thing that I want you to pray about tonight. Understand that you can be a tough person in this world and be completely devoted to Christ. You can live your passions, and you can live your passions for Christ. And you can do it with the same passion that other people do for the things like football. And you can enjoy it. You can have fun with it. Because I can tell you something, whenever you do it and sell yourself out to it, you better grab on with both hands, because it's going to be one whale of a ride. And it's going to be fun.